How's it going, everybody? This is iNet Coder. We're coming to you guys with a little bit of political March Madness. And right now, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the team and we're going to start introducing just a little bit about what we're going to be doing. Hey guys, how's it going? We're up and live and recording. So right now, I would like to hand this over to Juniper, and she's going to be going through a little bit of the March Madness 2018 Politics Edition. Go ahead and take it.
Hey, thanks, Coder. So in this episode, guys, we are going to cover You're Fired, election escapades, censorship conflagration, poking the bear, Qtips, calling all patriots, and resources. So we're going to kick it off with You're Fired.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
So yeah, a bunch of people at the beginning of March have heard "You're fired" from our president. First person up was John McKinney. Actually, he is the president. Reports are President and Mrs. Trump are very fond of John McKinney. He joined the Trump campaign as a volunteer and became a member of the staff. And then when President Trump was inaugurated, he was POTUS's assistant and has been so since then. The word is that he left the administration because he is going to be joining the 2020 campaign team as a senior advisor for operations. So the next person on the chopping block was Steve Goldenstein. Sorry, guys. And so basically, this is one of those cases of where he just kind of gets in his own way. His boss is Rex Tillerson. So Mr. Goldenstein is the Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. He was fired on Tuesday, March 13th. Allegedly, the reason is after everyone was notified of Mr. Tillerson's firing, Mr. Goldstein issued a statement saying the secretary did not speak to the president and is unaware of the reason for. Yeah, so basically that was fib, and the White House administration said, yeah, no, your services are no longer needed. Thank you for playing goodbye. And so he had to leave. The next person that was fired was Rex Tillerson, who is his boss. And Rex Tillerson is the Secretary of State. He was fired. Technically, he was, everyone was notified Tuesday, March 13th, 2018. But the word is while he was overseas during an Africa trip, that POTUS had contacted him on the 9th of March, which was a Friday, to say that his services will no longer be needed. And as a result, Mr. Tillerson had canceled all the engagements and returned back to the States a day early. Now, Mr. Tillerson had been with the Trump administration since inauguration. Previously, he was the CEO of ExxonMobil. He had been with them from 2006 to 2016. There are some links down below that you will definitely want to kind of dive into to give you a little bit more about this guy, because technically this will not be the last time that we hear about this man. And next on the chopping block was Andrew McCabe. Mr. McCabe was jettisoned on Friday, March 16th, 2018. He's the deputy director of the FBI. So Mr. McCabe had been with the FBI since 1996. And so he's, yeah. So basically, there are some red flags with this man. One being is that during the investigation of HRCs, and HRC is Hillary Rodham Clinton, during the use of a private server, he should have recused himself during the investigation. And the reason being is while his wife Jill was running for a Senate seat in Virginia, an action committee that is associated with the Clinton camp. I'm sorry, actually associated with the Clinton ally, Governor McAuliffe. He had donated some cash to the McCabes. Long story short, Mr. and Mrs. McCabe wound up with about $1.25 million. Yeah, and so that's a definite red flag. There are a few more links below. Another red flag is Mr. McCabe's mention and or tie with Peter Strosick and Lisa Page. So basically, if you don't remember Page and Strosick, they were the two FBI cheaters. And their texts were released last year. And in those texts, it revealed that they were conspiring. And the one text from Strosick to Page said, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. So we're a little unsure as to what the insurance policy is. There's a lot of speculation there, and as you do some research, you'll kind of discover that as well. But the consensus is that in this text, the Andy, or the Andy's office that's referred to, is Andrew McCabe. So basically, this text alleges that at some point, this little gang of three were conspiring against our president. And now, something that you guys want to keep an eye out on the horizon are a lot more people that will be fired. There is a running list of recent departures and firings. There's that link to the article, but also too, some of our anons have been doing some research and have compiled a database that has a list of folks who have either left or been fired. And then I believe next up is Link.
Hello, and we're going to look into election escapades. And in the Pennsylvania election, before the election, the Goldwater US says that George Soros masterminded voter suppression in Pennsylvania. The Goldwater US George Soros masterminded voter suppression in Pennsylvania and met with Governor Tom Wolf. And also with the Pennsylvania election, during the election, due to redistricting set to take place later this year, there was confusion at the polls. Some voters were turned away because their residency was not in the current 18th district. There are also questions regarding the calibration of voting machines in all 4 counties who participated in the special election. So with the election, it was so close that they've demanded a recount, and also the Dems just netted 5 congressional seats without a sweat. Justices won't stop Pennsylvania redistricting effort. And also in the special elections, a hotly contested race in the 18th congressional district drew plenty of voters to Tuesday's special election, but not all of them voted, often because they weren't residents of the district, which is interesting. And also after the election, a race winner has not been announced and could take days for an official count. Republican Party lawyers were prevented from observing the ballot counting in Allegheny County for not having credentials. However, CNN was allowed into the closed room. The Republican Party is seeking a court order to impound all voting machines used during the election in all 4 counties that participated. And candidate Rick Saccone has yet to concede the election and is vowed to consider all legal options. So in the voting news, the Republican officials are alleging voting irregularities in the District 18 special election, and so they plan to go to court seeking to impound all the voting machines used Tuesday. And the Allegheny County begins review of votes from 18th District race. The election review process for the closely watched 18th Congressional District race began Friday in Allegheny County. And also from CBS Pittsburgh, Republicans allege voting irregularities, leaving 18th Congressional. It's not over, says attorneys for the National Republican Congress Campaign Committee. So it should be interesting to watch a proper investigation take place. And also, one of the other interesting issues is gerrymandering the districts. Because of the redistricting, the lines drawn not by the legislature but by the judicial system will remain in effect. This will skew the state's balance more towards Democratic representatives, change the dynamic, and leave many voters at a loss. So it's it is quite an interesting turn of events. And I'll hand over to Tenacity for Fraction Magic.
Thank you. So fraction magic is a very interesting concept. Most people have no idea what it was, and I didn't either until I started looking at it. But it kind of reared its head during the primaries. A lot of folks were wondering, if so many people were at the voting and out, and a lot more people voted, and it seemed like the numbers would have fallen a different way. Well, upon further research, and there's quite a bit of information here and actual proofs from an organization called blackboxvoting.org. They've had a number of scenarios, and they've actually broken this down quite well, where they took a number of voting machines and working with local officials, and were able to prove that there's actually a concept where the voting machines are basically weighting the votes. In this case, an example, we're talking about Mary and Joe, and they're in a running race, right? And there's 15 people that vote for Joe, while 10 vote for Mary. The voting machine coding, however, shows that Joe, is his votes are showing up as 3/5 of the full vote. And time for the ballot reporting, Mary wins with 10 votes over Joe improperly because they've actually weighted those votes. And so what I mean is, like in the case, you'll notice if you do dive into this information, they found where Hillary Clinton was getting like 1.5% of the vote, where Bernie Sanders was getting 0.5, and then another percentage was going in some other places as well. So it was very interesting to watch. So as well, Bev Harris is a amazing person. She's got lots of information at Black Box Voting, and plenty of evidence to check this phenomenon. We're not going to show you the video today, but we do highly suggest it, as well as several of the resources that are listed below. All right, we're going to jump into censorship conflagration. So if you've read anything or turned on a newspaper, or turned on the radio, or pretty much, any news channel these days has talked about one side or the other around censorship. Many of us have been surprised recently that being in the United States, this has a constitution, that we also have a problem here in the United States. And I have been quite surprised by it. If you may have seen in the news, some of our fellow patriots, CBTS Reddit has been banned, when there's quite a bit of counter, media out there, which was quite surprising. So we've uncovered quite a bit of news recently where US government entities are actually working with these social media outlets to legally, if you would, suppress freedom of speech. This document in particular, this FBI cover up, is quite lengthy, but it goes through how different organizations within the US government are working directly with people like Facebook and YouTube, et cetera. And there's quite a bit of interest. In fact, just in the day or so, we've had more and more evidence come forward. So I think that we're going to have lots of more conversation on that topic in particular. Also, we found out that it's not a U.S. problem. It's in fact, it's even worse in other countries. We found where the EU is preparing to unleash their first regulations targeting search engines so that they could actually make it even more difficult. And if you remember, other countries don't have a constitution, so they do not have freedom of speech. So trying to just get the information so you can share the information is virtually impossible. Now adding yet another layer to that very difficult situation. Backing up, we found a really great source. Wanted to share Tommy Robbins, and he's reading us a speech of Martin Sellner. This man actually refused entry of UK because of his potentially incendiary views. We're going to also leave this video for you to check out. But there's a lot of information here, and you'll see if you dive into this subject, it repeats over and over. And we highly encourage folks to look into it because you may find some other patriots are working right now on what's called the Internet Bill of Rights. We're going to get into that subject probably in another day, but definitely keep that in your mind. We have some resources here, but speaking up, and I think the only way if you can stop censorship is what we don't turn the other way. So I can go on and on, but I won't. We don't want to scare you, but just like, you got to remember, if we don't stand up and stop and say, hey, this is not okay because our laws are being protected, then, just like anything, they think it's okay, right? And so I think all of us here encourage, and hence these shows and these channels, that we want to make sure that folks, remember their rights as a U.S. citizen, and that we deserve to be able to be heard. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Tenacity. I'm going to talk a little bit about poking the bear. Who's the bear? I'll flash forward over here to an interesting story that came out beginning part of the year. 2017 summarized in 2.8 billion tweets. This little visual graphic here kind of indicates just kind of the news flow of last year by tweets and mentions. Hat tip to Jeff Desjardins at Visual Capitalist. But what you see along the bottom here, specifically in the purple along the bottom, is the Russia investigation, right? All throughout last year, what did we hear? Russia this, Russia that. He was meddling in elections. So if you were to draw a line from the left-hand side across about 20%, you can see just how often that was in the news and people mentioned it. Keep that in mind. So what has since happened? Well, let's take a look at what's happened here in the United States, right? The narrative seems to be falling off. It's lost traction with the mainstream media. And with all the stuff going on with Q and all the intelligence net being received in the background, we know that the influence here in the States is waning. So how best are they going to try and inflate up the boogeyman, if you will, Russia? We got to maintain this narrative that Russia's the bad guy out of all this. So if they can't get it done here in the States, where are they going to go? Well, if you've been paying attention to the news here in the last week or so, we've had this blow up in the UK. So this little blurb here says the actual history of Novichok shows that out of the countries discussed here, Russia is the only state to have been certified by the OPCW, and I'll touch on that here in a bit, as having destroyed its chemical weapons program, including its nerve agent capabilities. The OPCW found no evidence to indicate that Russia retains an active Novichok capability. The same is not the case, however, for the US, Britain, and Israel. So what is Novichok? Novichok, I think its operational definition, if you will, is kind of a combination of a chemical fertilizer mixed with an pesticide, if I recall. So this chemical concoction in that is what they're trying to pin this on. Pertaining to Russia, which, by the way, the OPCW says they no longer have. So, again, the narrative continues. We got to get a war started here, folks. Russia did it, as per Theresa May. So you can kind of see along the bottom here some of the articles that have come up just in the last week. Is the UK manufacturing its nerve agent case for action on Russia? Russia is quote unquote culpable over ex double agent poisoning, Theresa May says. And then, of course, we've got the live. Highly likely, Russia is behind spy poisoning, the Prime Minister says. Take a look and read for those yourself. And so, this Russian agent, former spy, and his daughter were poisoned with nerve gas. But who's to blame? Or, in other words, cui bono? Who benefits? So, we've got a number of articles that have come up in the last week. Starting over on the left, we've got NATO saying Stoltenberger slams reckless Russia's attack. This is the first offense use of a nerve agent on an alliance territory since NATO's foundation. It has no place in the civilized world. We do not want a new Cold War, and we don't want to be dragged into a new arms race. Bottom left, we got Fox News saying, Russian ex-spy possibly poisoned through car's air vents, report says. Gonna take a read on that one. Through the middle here, we've got poisoned Russia spy Sergei Skripal was close to consultant. Who worked for the company that compiled a controversial dossier on Donald Trump, was close to the Russian double agent poisoned last weekend, it has been claimed. That's very interesting. And of course, up here on the top right, we've got Lavrov. Russia refuses to respond to UK quote unquote ultimatum until it receives the report on what this particular agent was. And of course, we've got Fox News down here saying in a joint statement, world leaders agree that Russia was behind the new nerve agent. What did we just talk about on the previous slide? Collusion conclusion. So we've got a number of articles again, flashing forward all the way to today. Interesting excerpt out of that center article by the Saker here. And this is talking about over the past several years, a number of these agents and that have been, shall we say, not with us anymore. And so what this excerpt is describing is just after the description of those agents is the only possible conclusion from this list is this. There is some kind of secret lab in Russia where completely incompetent chemists try every poison known to man, not on rats or on mice, but on high-profile Anglo-Zionist supported political activists, preferably before an important political event. Right. By the way, the gas allegedly used in the attack, Novichok, was manufactured in Uzbekistan, and the cleanup of the factory producing it was made by, you guessed it, a U.S. company. Just saying. And so down here on the left, we've got the BBC here. We've got Boris Johnson down here. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia needs to see a sample or it will refuse to cooperate. And also, just down here today, Parton down scientists under extreme pressure to confirm nerve gas. And so, real quick, I spoke previously about what this OPCW report was. So, the OPCW, for those that don't know, is the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Keep in mind, this report was kicked out in April 2013. And mind you, it states exactly as you said before. Russia and this particular organization have confirmed that they no longer have these types of chemical weapons in their capacity. And with that, I'll hand it over.
So Q-tips, expand your thinking. So Q posts, you can find them at 3 various spots. That's going to be at these 3 links here, and we highly we highly suggest that you check them out. And so the folks at CBTS, the 24/7 stream, if you haven't checked it out yet, you should check it out. But also, they will mention that you can check out Discord and participate there. So, if you actually kind of want to dive in, do a little bit of research on your own, and meet a lot of other like-minded patriots who were all working towards the same goal on Discord, you can check us out. Operation Name and Shame. That one is digging up information on various players, like our friend HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton. And there's another Discord server that you can check out. It's hashtag Internet Bill of Rights. And Tenacity had mentioned that earlier. There are a handful of folks that are working towards getting something drafted that we can kind of all have a say and hopefully get enacted. Then there's also some tools, which Patriots for Truth, and I highly recommend checking this out. And if you can't get enough Q News, we have a handful of places where you can go. Mentioned earlier, the CBTS Calm Before the Storm 24-hour stream. That's the one in the upper left of the live streams. That's We the People. That they stream at, like the name says, 24/7. And you can hear everybody kind of give their opinion along with some sourced information as folks break down QAnon posts. And another one that I would highly suggest would be to check out Dr. Corsi. He decodes some of Q's posts and visits the channel often on 24/7. And so, we could be here all night if I go over all of these, but please, I, highly encourage you to check all of these out. It's definitely worth your while. And the reason why most of us are here, right, Q, these are a handful of Q quotes that kind of keep me focused and kind of driving towards the goal. Q had posted, building the army, not convinced this is spreading. You, the people, have the power. I remember when I had first read that definitely struck a chord. And, together, you are invincible. Be loud, be heard.
So we just want to jump into calling all patriots and let you guys know we hear this all the time from Q. It's a great time to be alive. I know with it being dark and dreary sometimes, and that's really what I think, as you said, Juniper, it really brings us together to know that when we look for these truths and we find things, right, and get informed and get aware of some of these things that are out there, you just didn't know what they were called, has helped a lot of us, and so it has also trust in ourselves as well. And so there's so many things that you can get involved with, even if it's just learning about news or like we said, we had a number of Discord servers out there. People are gathering information. We have a number of people who are putting together lists and really just building a community of like-minded individuals. So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we really do hope that you guys join us in the cause. I'll jump in just to summarize in our resources. With each of our segments, we wanted to let you know, give you a little tidbit of who we are, and turn this over to Mr. Coder, our fearless leader out there.
Thanks, guys. Another great job for sure. And the big thing here is this is a community that's getting together, collecting information from all around the world. Not from one location. It's many, many different locations. But who we are, right? We are a powerful group of patriots who have banded together after being assailed by misleading and false news. Instead of the dragnet, just in the facts, ma'am style of journalism, Most news has developed into lengthy commentaries and half-truths. Individually, we are diverse with various personal and ideological backgrounds. Collectively, we are a team of patriots spanning the globe, striving for truth. We have grown to recognize that sovereignty and freedom are nonpartisan and immutable rights. We also recognize that each person has his or her own biases and bring forth different perspectives. It is those differences we choose to celebrate and leverage to provide the most informational, relevant, and factual news possible. We vow to always do our best to ensure that when opinions are given, they are recognized as such and properly communicated and identified. Please, guys, continue reading to learn more about some of the people behind the scenes. And again, I'd like to thank everybody here. We've got Breaking Spectre, we've got Juniper, we have Red Cord in the background pulling strings, we have Missing Link and Tenacity, and of course, I am iNetCoder. So, yeah, guys, definitely a great job. And here's a glossary of terms for those people that might need it. Hopefully, we'll be able to collect a set of links to some of these locations and post below this video.